I am super impressed with our progress that we've been making with strings. And actually, the other day, I thought of an acronym, a little phrase, I guess you could say, with the acronym SSS, triple S. And that, in my mind, stands for strings are serious about sequencing, SSS. Now, what that means is take the string, for example, gold, or for example, the name of this book title, The Great Gatsby. Now, sorry, my book fell, but in The Great Gatsby, every character is in a certain sequence. So you have the THE, and then a space, and then great, and then GREAT, and then another space, and then Gatsby. So each character is kind of like a separate place in the computer's memory. That is how the computer is able to track each character. Take the string gold, GOLD. In memory, each character resolves to a position or a number. Now, you might think, if you've ever heard the phrase, to make a journey of 3 miles or 10 miles or 100 miles, it starts with the first step. If you've ever heard that philosophical phrase. So it starts with the number 1. However, or if in grade school you learn if you have one apple and someone hands you another apple and suddenly you have 2 apples. However, in computers, the number that the piece of memory that matches that variable, so if X equals gold or G equals gold in quotes, G makes a reference to a piece of a particular slot in memory, and the memory in slot isn't necessarily linked at 1, 2, 3, 4. It's what we call an offset. So, in other words, there is no offset at the 0 point, but the offset, the next character is the first offset. So the next character O, so the first character G in gold, G, there is no offset, so that's 0. The next character O is the first offset, and the next letter L is the second offset. So if you take a look at the sequence, actually GOLD, you can almost say it doesn't start 1 through 4 like how we think. Computers always start with the number 0. So actually GOLD refers to 0, 1, 2, 3. All right, let's take a quick look. All right, I want to show you what I was talking about. So we have the strings gold, GOLD, and the string spam, SPAM, and each character in this string is referencing an offset in memory. So when you create a variable gold, it creates a reference in memory, and this is the 0 offset, that's the first offset, that is the second offset, and so on and so forth. We created this other string, Star Wars, to show you that if there is a space in the character, a space is in fact another character. So let's take a look at the Python idle right here. Here's an example. So if we said S equals spam, and you notice we're only using a single quote right here, we can say S, and to reference an index, we use the open and closing brackets. So to reference the P in spam, we can reference the first offset, and that is P. Now to reference S, the very first character in this string, we can say simply 0, and that will give us S. And the other thing is, let's say we had a fairly, I'm going to say, intricate string. So let's say it was, the variable was called book title, or maybe movie title. We'll just say movie to be simple right here. And let's say it's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So just so you know, each character, whether it is a space or whether or not it is an apostrophe, is in fact another space. So if we wanted to list the very first character in this, we could say say movie, and then the very first character is O, so that is the 0 offset, and that is O. Now, another built-in function in this is the len function. So we can say len movie, how long, how many characters in all is this movie, and that is 31. Now, if we wanted to list the very last character, which is T, I bet some of you would say we would do movie and then index, say 31, because it is 31 characters long. You would get an error that says out of bounds, and I'll even do it here. It says string index out of range, and that is because you have to get the very last character here. You actually have to say that it's going to be the length minus 1. You have to subtract 1 from that length. So it would actually be 30. That will give you T, and in the One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, I know it's a very old movie. I guess I'm dating myself. Another way you could say it is you can do movie and then len movie minus 1, and that would give you the letter T. Next up, let's talk about slicing. One final concept in today's little mini lecture is the concept of string slices. So that is taking a group of characters within a string called a subset or subgroup, and somehow just displaying that. So for example, take the string S equals spam, S-P-A-M. What if we could just display P-A-M, Pam? Or take the string runaway. What if we could just display run or just the word away separately? So that is displaying, instead of indexing and showing one character at a time in the sequence, we can show a group of characters. We do this using the colon character. So on one side of the colon, on the left side of the colon, we show the very first index, the starting index, and in the right side of the colon, we show the final character within that group or slice. So for example, for runaway, we would say instead of just in the index having one single number, we have two numbers separated by a colon. So for example, the term runaway, if we wanted to isolate the group of characters for run, so in other words, just showing the word run from runaway, we would say the starting index, which is 0, and you might think we would do 0:2 based on your current knowledge, but for some reason, when it comes to slicing in particular, the starting index starts to the left of that number, which would still be 0, but the ending index goes to the right, which in this case would not be 2, it would be 3, so you add 1. So in the predefined method in Python called len, this is tough to explain without an example, and we're going to go through that next, but the rightmost value in slicing would really be the length value of len. So if you said run and you did length, it would actually be 3, but if you index 3, it would be out of bounds. But when it comes to slicing, that end destination character would actually be what we would think 2, but you have to add 1, 3. So it would be 0:3 out of runaway to isolate just the word run. Let's get a quick example. Okay, we want to slice the word run from the string runaway, and we can say X and utilize the brackets, and the starting character is 0, and that is this point, and the ending character is 3. That is, and I want you to just look at this closely. 0, 1, 2, and then the third character in this case, when it comes to the ending point of a slice, isn't this the character A right here? It's that point between the third character and the fourth character starts, and so it's the point right after the end. So just for some reason, the starting point and the ending point refer to two distinct parts of the string. The 0 point refers to this, but the ending character refers to the character after the n index, would actually technically be 2. So we get the word run. Now to get the word array, 0, 1, 2, 3. So we start at 3 and then we end at 7. So X, we start at 3:7, and then we get away. So that's a quick demonstration demonstration of slicing. Incidentally, if we aren't too aware, or if it's not obvious what that end character is, we can always just say len of x, and that gives us the 7th character. So we can almost do, in case we're ever in doubt, we can say starting at the character we want to start at, and then just say len of x right here, and that gives us the word that we want anyways. And we could also utilize replication too, so we could say x starting from 3 all the way to the end times 4, and we get away, and so on and so forth. So that is slicing in a nutshell. One more thing I wanted to mention, indexing itself and slicing, they go both ways. So if G is 0, O is 1, and so on and so forth, we can get into the negative realm as well. So D, it actually starts at the number before 0, and that's -1. So D is -1, L is -2, and then we have -3, and -4. Now let's take a look at Python itself. So we have G equals gold. What would it say if we said G indexing starting at its 0 point and then going all the way to -3, and we simply get G. And if we said -3, just -3 itself, we get O, and that of course matches with this O here. And so you can go ahead and play around with going into the negative area as well. One final thing I wanted to mention about indexing is several shortcuts that you can take. So if you said G and then colon and then end the indexing here, we wind up with gold. And if you left this space empty and you just said 3, that gives us the very first 3 letters, because there's an implied 0 in this other end. And if you did the exact opposite and you said 1 here, you get old, and when you just leave this blank, it is an implied destination of the full length of it, if that makes sense. So if you were to go starting at 2, we wind up with LD, because it's saying we start at the 2nd position, which is L, and then we go all the way to the end. So these are some little shortcuts of indexing. There's a lot of tricks that you can do with indexing that are a little bit beyond this video, because I want to keep it as short as possible. But feel free to look at all the things you can do with indexing in books such as Crash Course in Python in the No Starch Publishing realm, as well as python.org.